Why is the resurrection of Jesus Christ a big deal? Well, because the resurrection of Jesus Christ crushes the power of death, crushes the fear of death. Jesus had a friend named Lazarus who died, and Lazarus' sisters are like, "Oh, Jesus, if you'd only been here, maybe you could have healed him and he wouldn't have died." And Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. I am the resurrection and the life." You realize after he rose from the dead, his disciples, who had been fearful before, now went into the center of the city and began to preach to huge crowds, thousands of people, that Jesus had risen from the dead. The Apostle Peter, when he stood up to preach, he said, "You guys were the ones that nailed Jesus to the cross. You need to repent." He said, "But God untied the death cords and raised him up. Death could not hold him down. Death was no match for Jesus." Acts 2:24. Death was no match for Jesus. Jesus defeated death. He crushed the power of death. You don't have to be afraid of dying. You don't have to be afraid or sad when your loved ones pass on, because Jesus crushed the power of death. Jesus rose from the dead, and he frees us from the fear of death. It says in Hebrews chapter 2, it says, through his death, that he might destroy the one holding the power of death. He's talking about the devil. And free those. He freed those who all their lives have been in slavery, in bondage to the fear of death. You don't have to fear death, because Jesus defeated death when he rose again from the dead. Several years ago, my mom was very, very sick, and she was obviously dying. My sister-in-law was reading the scriptures to her, and they were reading Psalm 23. And they came to the part where it says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." And my mom quoted those verses along with my sister-in-law as she was reading them. And then my mom kept saying over and over, I will not fear, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I will have no fear, for you are with me. I will have no fear, for you are with me. 2 days later, we were all gathered in my mom's room, and there was a warm, wonderful, golden light in that room. The presence of angels, the presence of God. It was obvious. My mom had such a peaceful look on her face, such a contented look on her face, such joy. She could barely speak, but her lips were moving, and she was saying, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." And she was saying, "I fear no evil, for you are with me." And then she smiled just a little bit and closed her eyes and passed on from this life into the next life. From earth to heaven to paradise. She graduated into glory because Jesus broke the power of death. You don't have to fear death today. You don't have to be afraid of it. You don't have to be afraid of it for your sake. You don't have to be afraid of it for your family's sake. If you've been saved, if they've been saved, the power of the resurrection comes to play. Jesus, who crushed the power of death, can defeat the fear of death in your life. Never underestimate the power of the resurrection.